Hello and welcome to another episode of Health Matters. I'm Mary Alale Yusuf. We all know that sleep is essential for rest. Now, imagine that breathing is interrupted during sleep on a regular basis. What would the effect be? Sleep apnea is defined as a reduction or cessation of breathing during sleep. It is more common in men than in women. It is also more likely to develop in blacks, Hispanics, and Pacific Islanders than in Caucasians. It gets more common with age, and for women, the condition is more likely after menopause. That's later on in life. Today we are discussing sleep apnea with Dr. Obafemi Akinjobi, a sleep medicine physician with the Marvinus Sleep Center in Lagos. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Sleep apnea, interrupted breathing, that sounds so frightening.
Yes.
Tell us, is there something you'd like to add to the definition that was given in the opening statement?
Well, that beautifully encapsulates the definition of sleep apnea, but trying to just make it much more graphic, I would just say that when you are asleep, imagine you choking when you are asleep. No air goes into your system, so no oxygen goes into your system. That's what happens in sleep apnea.
How common is this
Okay,
phenomenon?
well, according to studies all over the world, well, in the US, in the UK, it's noted to be about 4% in the general population among men, then 2% among women. Then if we narrow it down, in fact, we find the highest incidence in Israel, where we realize about 18% of men actually have this, really, but we realize that it's more common, of course, among the developed nations, and where we
Which
have.
means that here in Nigeria it could be more than 18%?
Well, no official studies have been done about that, so we can't give specific numbers. But the truth is that we realize that this is pretty common here in Nigeria. So that's the truth.
Okay, do we have classifications of sleep apnea?
Oh, yes, we do. Yes. Sleep apnea is under a classification. It's under a heading called the sleep-related breathing disorders. Now, sleep apnea is just an example. And under sleep apnea, we actually have various different examples. We have the obstructive sleep apnea in the adults, obstructive sleep apnea pediatric. We have the primary obstructive apnea, just pretty primary. Then we have the central sleep apnea, without any, not associated with any medical condition. Then we have the central sleep apnea associated with disease called the Cheyne-Stokes breathing pattern. We have the central sleep apnea associated with high altitude breathing.
And this is all under sleep apnea?
Yes, under
not
sleep
other
apnea.
sleep problems?
No, under sleep apnea.
That's massive.
Yes.
So what causes the obstructive sleep apnea?
Okay, beautiful. Now, what we need to look at is it involves a problem with the upper airway. Now, it uniquely happens when you are asleep, because when you are asleep, your breathing pattern, the signals from the brain are different from when you are awake. So what happens is that the pressure of air, there are some principles behind the physics principles. What happens is a collapse of the upper airways when you are asleep.
That is not a normal collapse.
That is not a normal collapse, because when you are asleep, your body has other reflexes. For example, when you're about to breathe in, your body sends about a signal to the upper airway muscles, 500 milliseconds, that it's time for you to increase your tone. So when the diaphragm pulls, causes a negative intrathoracic pressure, tries to bring in air, the lungs, the upper airways don't collapse.
Okay.
But we find that in the sleep apnea, many factors cause that collapse to occur.
Okay. So let's find out what causes the central sleep apnea.
Oh, that is a problem from the brain. The brain doesn't send the signals for the muscles and all the organs involved in breathing to breathe. So in short, it means the brain forgets to breathe. That's central sleep apnea.
So which is more common?
So the obstructive sleep apnea is more common.
The
Obstructive
obstructive.
sleep.
Okay, so I think we'll settle on that first.
Okay.
What could the complications of obstructive sleep apnea be?
Oh, they are quite frightening and a lot. I'll just list them out. They are major cause for hypertension.
Major?
Yes, for hypertension. In fact, 50% of all obstructive sleep apneas have hypertension. If you go into the theory, you understand why it is so. Now, it's a major cause of pulmonary hypertension. That means increased pressure in the lungs.
Okay.
Now, also causes heart failure. It also causes what people call a heart attack. medical doctors call it myocardial infarction, where there's no blood to the heart muscles, where they die and we're going to have problems. So it's a major cause of heart attack. Now, one other thing we also realize that it's also a major cause of diabetes mellitus type 2.
Sleep apnea?
Oh, yes. Why? Because it causes a raised insulin resistance, which now leads to diabetes mellitus. And one other thing also it causes, we notice particularly all my patients in Nigeria, it actually causes erectile dysfunction, impotence.
Okay, men are going to really pay attention now.
Oh, yes.
Now, since this is such an obstructive problem, I'd like to ask, the person who is suffering from sleep apnea, since it's something that happens during sleep, does he know, does she know?
That's the tricky part of this problem. Because the person is asleep, he's not aware something is going on. In fact, I may just tell you that I sleep anywhere, I don't know what's wrong with me. He can never give you a history of what's happening.
I sleep anywhere, I
Yes.
don't know what's wrong with me.
Yes.
What could that be? Wouldn't he be sleeping at home at night?
He thinks he's sleeping, but he just knows that he's not refreshed when he wakes up.
Okay, so he ends up sleeping other places.
Well, yes, exactly. Moving about, driving, anything. He just sleeps anywhere, absolutely anywhere. He can just fall asleep. He can be talking with you and just go fall asleep.
Okay, now what are the symptoms? You know, I know this is difficult because you're saying now that the person may not even know he has it.
Yes.
But are there symptoms of
Oh,
sleep
yes,
apnea?
they are. Okay, well, I'll divide the symptoms into two. We have the nighttime symptoms and the daytime symptoms.
Okay.
Usually when I see patients, we usually call either the spouse or your friend or family member because they're the one that can actually give testimony to the nighttime symptoms. Now, the daytime symptoms, number one major is snoring. I'll not say snoring. I'll call it excessive daytime sleep,
Okay.
called EDS.
Okay.
Person just begins to sleep, can't control it. Now, person wakes up with headaches every morning, wakes up with headaches. Then person begins to suffer from memory loss, begins to forget things. Person begins to get irritable. Then we have what we call automatic behaviors. He will do something, and he will forget that he actually did that thing.
These are all very subtle symptoms.
Yes.
They're not out there in your face
No, not
kind
at all.
of symptoms.
Well, the person knows he has a problem. Person is just unnecessarily tired during the day. He can't function well. He can't think well. He's not just his optimal self. And tells this, I know there's something wrong with me. Of course, then some other things the person may experience, he won't even think associated. It's actually heartburn.
Okay, heartburn.
Heartburn, thinking peppery sensation in the chest or in the stomach. He has a problem. Of course, the man will not give a symptoms of okay, impotence. They can have an erection and various other subtle things that they usually go around seeking.
But is this something that co-workers can detect for someone? Like, you know, guy, I think something is wrong with you. Your head drops into your laptop, you know, every 5 minutes or something like that. Is this something someone else can
Oh,
pick
yes.
up?
In fact, the truth is this. It's subtle yet very obvious because something people make fun of each other.
Okay.
You sleep too much. You sleep anywhere. This man can sleep. And when he sleeps during the day, he's snoring. You know, very funny position of sleeping. So usually that's the major thing. And part of it that happens during the day. Then, of course, we have the nighttime symptoms that occurs. Now, usually you find that they snore a lot. I mean, so loud. Nobody can even sleep with them. Now, you find that they trash about the bed. They are very restless asleep. When they wake up, they are very thirsty. Very thirsty.
What's the connection between the thirst
Okay,
and
beautiful.
thrashing about?
Now, therefore, change the dynamics of the breathing pattern. It's changed. So when they wake up, their mouth has to be opened at night.
Okay.
So it gets dried. So they wake up with dry mouth and they have to take in some water. You find that, of course, a lot of them too overly sweat at night, excessive sweating at night. So it all causes that you are losing a lot of fluid because of that. Then, of course, some of them wake up with, I said they wake up with headaches. Yeah. Then you find a lot of them actually wake up at night to go urinate.
But isn't that normal?
It's not normal when it's more than 2-3 times in the night. In fact, it shouldn't be more than once, really. But because there's a special hormone released, or let me say peptide released in the body to try to compensate for all the complications. So it actually causes you to go multiple times to go urinate at night.
Okay. Then, of course, you said these are symptoms that somebody, maybe a wife, husband, or someone who